I love that we can have these conversations and that we can change our mind.
At the body shop, doing something unholy. You're welcome, guys. Happy Tuesday. That was a nice little song to get stuck in your head for your afternoon.
Oh my gosh, happy Tuesday, turkeys. How are you doing, Kaylee?
I'm doing very good. I hope we're allowed to sing tunes of other people's songs on YouTube. I'm doing fan-diddly-tastic.
Well, good diddly do. I don't know, that was dumb.
It was great. We have our first, we've got another first in the Nonsexual Soulmates Podcast world. We've done our first interview, and now we are doing our first listener feedback only episode.
Ooh, I'm excited for this one.
Listener write-in question. This is not to be confused with the episode where we just read off all the comments that people gave us that were hateful and ugly. Because that was a different genre. This is an actual sincere question.
Which I love, and I'm excited to talk about this.
I know, me too.
We interrupt this show to let you guys know today's episode is brought to you by our new YouTube exclusive series called Poddle. Brought to you by us, Nonsexual Soulmates, the Poddle episodes are short and sweet, but they are actually far from sweet. Join us for our Saturday morning shit show where we explore the comedic dark side of today's topics and expand upon our long-form podcast shows by doing the exact antithesis of it. If you like rants and rage and a place for judgment, our first Poddle is live as of Halloween. Dropping every Saturday morning, check out the Poddle on YouTube. Now back to the show.
I honestly don't remember what prompted this discussion with this fellow. I think we were maybe we were talking about gender roles. Mm-hmm. And this guy ended up leaving a comment just kind of randomly. Jeff Prentice 5064 from YouTube. I'm just going to read it because it was an interesting question when he posted it to me, and then I sent it to Kayla, and I was like, fuck it, let's talk about this. So thanks, Jeff. Hope you're not a weird guy, because I'm giving you a lot of shout outs and airtime on our podcast. On a positive note, things seem to be much better in terms of seeing more positive female characters in media. I mention this as I'd love to hear your take, looking back at iconic movies as we grew up. As a former boy in the 80s, I loved movies like The Goonies, Ghostbusters, The Lost Boys, Princess Bride. Now I realize that all of those typically... Okay, typo sort of, but now I realize that all of those movies typically either have the love interest or the secondary characters as females. How do you feel about these at that time, as well as now looking back? Do you still enjoy them in the same way that you did? My reading of that was a little bit shitty, and there were a few typos because we were going back and forth on YouTube. But basically, the moral of the story is, in earlier comments, I think he was even saying he was a dad, he had daughters. So it was just kind of, again, what we're going back to, the culture of being able to ask questions and just ask for feedback from somebody else's perspective. And he's just basically getting at this idea of, back in the day, most movies that I remember watching or that were blockbuster hits are your classic, strong male lead, secondary female character, or she's the love interest, or maybe a wicked witch. Shout out to the witches. And then did we notice that as kids that we can remember? Do we feel differently about that now? And then Kayla and I also were kind of expanding our conversation into noticing how things have changed, good or bad, or indifferent. And here, that's where we are. Thanks, Jeff Prentice.
Yeah, this sparked some conversation, and some thoughts. I'll just start off by saying I didn't notice nor give a flying fuck about the gender, representation in movies when we were younger. I didn't even think about it. I feel like we were too young to notice or have an opinion on it. I don't know. How do you feel?
I'm glad you started there because I was going to say, let's break this down into the first half. I don't think I had the language for that, but I do remember watching Mulan for the first time and loving that movie. And I do think it's because I think it's because it was like a strong female character. I don't think I was walking around being like, I have to be a damsel in distress. But I do think that something with me connected with this woman that was supposed to do something like prim and proper and just like marry the guy. And that was how she was going to bring honor to her family. And then was like, fuck the system. And was like, gotcha, bitch, pretended to be a dude, and then like fought in a war and did all this other stuff and proved everybody wrong that didn't think she could do it.
Mm-hmm.
I know part of that is my obsession of like going against the grain and freaking people out and proving them wrong. So probably a lot of that was what it was. But
Yeah.
I do think maybe a part of me was excited that it was a woman doing that and breaking out of a traditional woman's role. Maybe.
I can see that. Yeah, Mulan was a badass.
But I also don't think that my life was ruined by seeing Cinderella in her princess dress either.
Right. I agree with that. Should we move on into how we feel now about these movies back in the day?
Yeah, have you watched any movies? Yeah, Kate, your baby's still a little bit young to be watching like Disney movies, but so I don't know if you've gone back and seen them as an adult, but if you have you noticed anything jarring or weird?
Was it you that mentioned Princess Bride, or was that Jeff? Because I like that movie a lot, and I have watched it not recently, like within the last 5 years, but I've watched it as an adult, and I still love that movie. Like, I have no qualms and negative thoughts about, oh, these people didn't put more females in there. Like, they were, in the time that they were made, that was fine and normal, and I don't have a problem with it at all. I still enjoy those movies just as much. But I also will say, for me, I think you know this, like, my family, there's a lot of men in the family, and I enjoy shooting the shit and talking, and like I like just listening to Kenny and his friends talk, and I think men are more entertaining 9 times out of 10. No offense. So I feel like for movies and entertainment purposes, I don't have a problem with male leads. You know what I'm saying? I'm not missing anything, because I think again, depending on the type of movie and the type of entertainment you're watching, I don't have a problem with it. I think it's the way we're shifting is better for inclusivity, but I don't have a personal vendetta against these movies. You know what I'm saying? Does that make sense?
Yeah. I can't think of any that I've gone back and watched and been like, oh, fart. That sucked. There are probably, well, you and I talked about this, that we wanted to just address it head on. Like, obviously, men have been the dominant culture, and specifically white men have been more of the dominant culture in our country. And while we aren't men, we're still white. So yes. I could definitely see that there's the potential, and especially in some of the old Disney movies where they were all mostly white, or that there's a possibility that some of the stereotypes or things that they portrayed were offensive to people or rub people the wrong way or hit a nerve on things that I don't have, that I don't understand or see. Mm-hmm. But for me, looking back, it doesn't bother me to see a strong like male lead. Mm-mm. I guess there could have been more Mulan-esque movies where there were more strong women. Like, maybe I would have liked that, but I don't feel damaged by it. I'm straight, so I think seeing like a strong male figure who can be kind and sensitive and can work hard and overcome is not a bad thing to see as positive attributes in humans. Mm-hmm. And those are things that I admire in my husband. And I'm glad that I look at those as positive values. So I don't see any of that as being something that's damaging, not nearly as much as like for me, the stuff that was detrimental was like the micro level stuff, like the individual, you know, the one-to-one shit that like kids say to each other in school, or having a gym teacher who said like, oh, I'm going to have a treat. I'm going to have half of a fun-sized Snicker bar. Like having a teacher with a fucked up sense of personal image to me is a lot more of a problem than like having Snow White have a skinny waist. I guess for me, like what I watched were cartoons. So a cartoon is a drawing, and I never thought I was going to look like a drawing.
But now people try to look like a drawing with the big eyes and all the filters and stuff. So I think it's a different time, but I agree. I don't have any personal problems with the way movies were made and the dominant roles in those. I think moving into today's culture, I think it's nice to see, like you said, like we're women, but we're also white women. So like there's a very high level of privilege that we still experience. And I do like to see more people represented. There's a part of me that just feels like companies are just pandering to the fact that people want more diversity. And that kind of pisses me off because I feel like they're not doing it for the right reasons. But I do like to see it, especially, you know, raising our son and everything for when he grows up. But I don't know. It's interesting.
I don't get the whole going back and like trying to delete old movies unless there's something that's like over the top, just egregious, which again, like I haven't watched all the Disney movies back, but I don't know. I've not noticed any of that necessarily. But I knew there were people who were like pooping in their pants over the new Little Mermaid. And I don't know, I watched the movies with like the little girls that got excited about it because she looked like them. And I thought it was so heartwarming and sweet. And just like you said, I can feel both things. I can be happy for the outcome and how that might make somebody feel better as a kid, make them feel more represented. They might feel like they can connect to an inspiring story better. And I can be skeptical of a company. Like, what are your motives? Because I would love it so much if a company was truly like, here, we want to like do the right thing and make something better. And I'm like, but are you just like hopping on the bandwagon of what people want you to do right now because you want to make more money? And maybe 100%. I'm being naive. Maybe like companies, like I should never expect more of a company than that they just want to make money. Maybe that's my problem.
I mean, I'm very skeptical as well. I feel like that's a valid thing to be questioning. Their moral compass or the reason why they're actually trying to do better. But yeah, I don't think, like Little Mermaid as an example, I love the new movie and the way they represented her, but I don't think they need to go back and like delete all versions of the old Little Mermaid, you know, like you can have both. Like you don't have to erase things, like don't ban books, but make new ones. Like we're adding and diversifying and growing as a society, and I love that. But you know, I don't think you should erase history because I don't think it's particularly necessary. And I think it's actually no, I take that back. I think it's necessary not to erase history because that's how you learn and that's how you know where you came from. So that's my thing. I don't think we should just. I like it. I love it, but I guess my point is I hope it continues in the right direction for the right reasons and not, you know, like, oh, we filled our quota. Now we're just going to go back and do whatever else. I just feel like companies, diversity is the word and inclusivity is the word these days. And I hope it's actually genuine, you know?
Right. Like, what does your board look like?
Exactly.
Like, you can put a bunch of people in a movie and have every continent of the earth represented, but are you still like systematically keeping certain people out of higher positions? Is it virtue signaling? It's my favorite fucking phrase I've ever heard that I obviously did not make up, but it makes so much sense. I'm so exhausted by people pretending that they care about body image or that they care about kids' role models when that doesn't really boil down to what they really care about. It would be great if they did. And in the meantime, again, like, I haven't watched the Barbie movie, but I know people had just like whole opinions about it. And
we need to watch it and do an episode on it.
Oh, we should. We totally should. And what I'll end up doing is I'll end up playing both sides of the fence and arguing with myself the whole time. But I heard somebody say, like, you know, it was dumb. And then somebody else say, I wish that this would have existed when I was a kid. Or same with some of the commercials. I know I'm going off on a little bit of a tangent, but there's some companies who are making such an obsessive point about putting like two dads in their holiday commercial. And I get annoyed at the company because I'm like, it feels like you're trying and it feels like you're exploiting a movement for your own personal gain. But then I heard somebody say, like, when I was a little gay kid, I wish that I could have seen that on the television and had it be normalized. So I'm like, well, fuck, like, I guess even if people are going to be shitbags in an executive room, it could still make a difference for some kid sitting in their living room. And it makes me feel less annoyed at the company. Well, I'm still as annoyed at the company, but I'm less annoyed with the situation. And it helps me have a different perspective on, like, okay, I don't need to be grumpy about them shoving it down my throat.
Yeah.
I can be happy, like, hopefully some like little self-conscious person somewhere sees this and it helps them feel like a little bit more normal.
I agree. It'll be interesting to see where it goes because, you know, we've always talked about it. It comes back to holding two different opinions, and or it can be both, being annoyed at the company but also liking the outcome. But it's always this pendulum swing where it's like, in our childhood, I don't want to say how many years ago that was, but I'm kidding. Like, just even 20 years ago, male role leads, women are the pretty little side, you know, characters, versus now it's like way completely different. Completely different. So I'm curious to see like where it progresses to. Will it stay like this? Will it come back to the middle? Like what will happen? I'm curious. I'm genuinely curious.
And I also don't want it to be an overcorrection where then they try to stamp out any strong male leads.
Right. I think that's where now we need to watch the Barbie movie and do an episode on that because this also comes back to the man of the house conversation too, because
I know it's all coming back around. Because I was just thinking to myself, like, I do think that men should be able to be sensitive and have feelings and all of that. But sometimes I want to watch like a pump up movie. And that means like I'd like to have the option not to watch somebody like limp dicking around on the screen for 2 hours.
Yeah. Yeah, man. Yeah, man. It's very interesting. I mean, but that's why I feel like you should be able to have both.
I think we were saying it comes full circle.
Yeah.
From our man and women conversation. Oh, that's what I was going to say. I was thinking, sometimes I want to be a dainty little side piece.
Yeah. Side character? Not side piece. You want to be a side piece?
Oh, like a piece on someone's side. Not their side piece as the person they're cheating on. I now realize. Yeah, that one I don't. No, like sometimes
like a trophy wife.
Yeah, like sometimes I want to like push my titties up and wear a pair of stilettos. But, you know, I also feel like I can be empowered to go to the gun range.
Exactly.
And hit the targets. So am I allowed to say gun on YouTube? I just did twice.
Pew pew.
Pew. I think like we all want to be a multi-dimensional people. So I'm good with multi-dimensional movies. I don't need us to stamp out different kinds of people. We can keep having more kinds of people. I don't understand the people that get mad about it. Like somehow if they see less of themselves, it's going to ruin their life. I.e., I've had one specific conversation with one specific person that I won't go into detail about, who was like initially kind of annoyed that there were less people that looked like him because he's used to it. And then, but then like to his credit, we kind of talked about it and I said, well, yeah, but you don't know what it's like to not see you because you're everywhere.
Yeah.
And then he was kind of like, oh, I hadn't thought about that. So, I mean, I sometimes get how like white guys, I don't get it exactly, but I can have empathy for maybe like it's a change. And so for other people to come into a space, it might mean that there's less room, right? Like if you have 10 people in a room and the room holds 10 people, if they start off as 10 white men,
Right.
well, then like a couple of them have to leave for something else to be there.
Right.
So yeah, I guess some of you are getting kicked out, but it doesn't mean that everyone's trying to like stamp you out of existence.
Right. I think you should be a part of the picture, but equally in the picture as all the other people.
Right.
You know?
I guess I'm just trying to acknowledge that in order for other people to come into that space, it does mean some of them either can't be there or have to leave.
Yeah, they can't be there the whole time.
Yeah.
So they're technically losing out on things, but it's only to allow for others to be there as well. Yeah, I get that. It's a pendulum swing. If you're always used to being represented and there and see yourself, I'm sure some people feel salty about it, but again, I think if you look at it from someone else's perspective, you can understand that how you feel is how other people should feel as well. But again, I just don't like the pandering. I feel like it's like virtue signaling, pandering. I just feel icky sometimes on how it comes up because I feel like people are just trying so hard to be in and do the right thing and blah blah blah. If it's for the right reasons, I love it. And I guess even
but
if
it doesn't feel sincere.
yeah,
Or I'm skeptical that it's sincere.
Yeah.
I mean, in the same way that I don't want somebody to approach me and be like, oh, your outfit looks so nice. And then as soon as they walk away from me, be like, this fucking asshole.
Yeah.
I don't want companies to be like, look, here's a girl or here's a brown person or here, like, and then talk shit about them behind closed doors or not give them the same amount of opportunities or not pay them equally for their work. So I don't like, yes, just like we talked about last week, like the hypocrisy makes me want my head to come off. If in the midst of people sorting out like how to make $1 and how to cater to what's going on in the universe, if that makes some kid who's growing up in a home or in a state that doesn't let public schools acknowledge that some people have two moms, if they can go home and watch a TV where there's two moms on the TV, then, and maybe that makes them feel a little bit better, like, that's a good outcome. So I guess you can have someone be a butthole in a company, and it doesn't have to, even if it like started off with them kind of being shitty about their intent. I'm glad that there can still be some positive outcomes. And like you said, hopefully as the pendulum continues to kind of like swing back and forth and society does its whole ebb and flow of figuring things out, hopefully it's like we're moving in a net positive direction. And I would think that the more sincere people get about just valuing different types of people and different styles of opinions and different ways of looking at the world, I would hope that people genuinely continue to have an interest in that. And then the effects are even more positive because it's starting off in a good spot instead of maybe starting off kind of like just because we want to make more money.
Exactly. Yeah. I just want people to be genuine and sincere about things. But until we get there, I guess I'll take this. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like it needs to change and maybe it'll just continue to get better. Yeah, I think it just needs to continue to evolve and society needs to still be open to things and ways of life because we all live differently.
And I also don't think that maybe it's the job of movies to educate your children.
Oh, that's a good one. Yeah, no.
Now, I will say there are definitely kids who are growing up in situations where their parents don't give a fuck about their education. And so, like, you know, school hopefully still gives them space to, like, think about different things and gives some exposure. And, you know, hopefully it's a broad base. But I think we're also kind of overvaluing movies and cinema in Hollywood if we think that that's going to be somebody's, like, sole source of input. Like, if you're a parent raising kids and you are somebody that chose to have kids or chooses to engage as a parent and is spending time and investing in your kids' lives, like, I kind of think there's more, you know, it's on you to, like, have a conversation and build that stuff out and talk about things.
Yep.
And give your kids some credit. Like, I don't think we as humans, like we just talked about, I don't think we're so fragile that we see one image or a repeated set of images on a TV screen and then internalize that and it ruins our whole life. I think it just gives you an opportunity to talk about things.
Yep. Yeah, agreed. Again, I think it goes back to personal responsibility and you have to do the work and you have to have those conversations outside of just the television.
Yeah. And for the kids who are growing up in those shitty situations where they don't have that, like, I am happy that they get to see.
Exactly. And it should be more diverse. It should be, like, more representative. I love where it's going and where we've gone for the most part because, again, I just feel like, I don't know. It's hard to explain.
It's hard when you feel grossed out by people being insincere and by companies feeling like they're just grabbing for a buck.
Yeah.
It's hard to critique that because everybody then just says, like, oh, you're a bigot. And it's like, well, no, I'm happy for, like, I'm happy for the changes that are happening, but I want them to be sincere changes. And I'm having a hard time believing some of these large corporations that they care about it more than just pretend or, like, showing and signaling that they do.
They're just checking a little quota on their box. And I don't love that. I want them to do it for the right reasons. We've already said that. I'm repeating myself now. But yeah, it's interesting.
Thanks, Jeff.
Yeah, this has been a great conversation. But to go back to the whole point of the question, I don't have any problems. I don't have any problems with anything. I'm just so chill. I ain't got any problems. Like, you put the movie out there, I can watch it. I don't have to watch it. If I don't like it, I won't watch it. If I love it, I'll watch it. You know, like, if it really offends me that much, then maybe I need to look in the mirror. Like, you know, I don't know.
Yeah, it's true. You just gotta, like, stay curious and stay open. And then I think if you have a knee-jerk reaction to something, we gotta all get better at saying why and doing a little bit of introspection instead of just throwing it out there. Like when you said man of the house and my whole guts hinged. And instead of me, like, having a whole, you know, soapbox, like feminist soapbox rant, I paused and went, why am I so bothered? And then it turned into a cool conversation. Staying curious.
Stay curious, my friends. I love this. I love that we can have these conversations. And that we can change our mind.
Just
if need be.
It's true. It comes back, I think we keep, like, rediscovering the core tenet of our podcast, and it just continues to be, like, having a space to ask questions. I love that this random guy asked us a sincere question. I know. And I love now that it's, like, spurred a whole conversation and more questions, and I'm excited to tag him in our episode, and hopefully he isn't bothered by our outcome. But again, like,
well, I was going to say, I hope he actually watches it or listens to it. What if we do this whole thing and he doesn't even... It's fine either way. It's a great conversation. But
it's true.
Wouldn't that be funny?
We still got a good convo out of it.
Yeah. Well.
All right. Well, if you want to join us for the dark side of this conversation, I think we're going to be exploring the dark side of Disney on our podal. which is released Saturday mornings exclusively on YouTube. So check that out. It should be coming in however many days is Saturday after Tuesday. But 4? Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday.
4.
Anyway.
Yeah. Whatever.
So check it out. We'll do the evil version of this conversation over there with a little bit of spice and sarcasm. But as always, we thank you for joining us. Drop us a comment, ask us a question. The proof is in the pudding that you just ate. We respond to our questions.
Hell yeah. So subscribe, like, and comment, and that would be amazing. We love you.
Or send us an email or send us a voicemail. Because right now the only voicemails we're getting are recycled versions of whatever healthcare provider used to have this phone number. Someone just asked me if they could schedule an appointment if we still take Medicaid.
Oh no. Lovely.
It's a journey, my friends. Stay curious.
Oh my gosh. Well, until next Tuesday.
We'll see you next Tuesday, and I love you. Bye.
Love you. Bye.
Beep, beep. Boop, boop.